NDLEA, Kwara State, Hajia Fatima Abiola Popola has proposed that university should require newly admitted students to undergo a mandatory drug test as part of the admission process. She explained that this would serve as a preventive measure while offering early intervention and counseling to those already using drugs to prevent them from becoming problematic users. Haji Abiola Bobola disclosed this during a radio program in Ilorin, monitored by us, the NDLEA boss, for the expressed concern over the rising number of drug users in the country, particularly among female. She warned that this trend poses serious risks to family and society at large. She said, according to her, I'll quote her, a 2018 survey showed that 14.3 million people were using drugs in Nigeria, 1 out of home. So, to discuss this with me, of course, I will be trying to link up with Mr. Larry Ogwegu to have his 2 cents on this issue. What does he think about the plan to propose mandatory, test, yes, drug test for students who wants to go into the university? What does he think about this? I'll see what I can get out to Mr. Larry to give us his own 2 cents, his own contribution on this issue. But like I said, feel free as well. The conversation is ongoing. To be part of the show, you can send us your messages, WhatsApp messages, put a call through us on either of the number. Feel free to interrupt the conversation as we try to get to get into the crux of the action. Okay, I've got Mr. Larry Ogwegu with me on the phone. Mr. Larry, first of all, good morning and welcome to the arena.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. I'm alive and well.
Okay, now let's go straight to the action. Wow. We hear that the NDLEA are proposing a mandatory drug test for varsity admission. What's your 2 cents on this issue?
On the surface, it looks good. It's supposed to check the state of the intending undergraduates. For me, if you're going to do screening, it shouldn't just be for those who are being admitted. People can develop drug habits after they have been admitted into the university.
Okay.
So they are obviously proposing a massive test of students to know their drug use status. The truth is that while it looks good on paper, it's a very difficult policy to implement. Extremely difficult, considering the fact that, first of all, you can't really place a hold on the cost. If you look at the cost of this proposed project, you'll marvel. If you begin to look at testing, you are talking of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of young people for different drugs, not just one drug. You're going to be testing them for different drug addictions.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to isolate a few drugs, in which case it's still a very massive project. And like I said earlier, you're going to also test the undergraduates who have already been admitted, because even if you test those who are just getting admission and they come into the school, they can still be influenced by those who are already in the school to form drug habits. All in all, I wonder, if you do the cost-benefit analysis, you ask yourself, could there be better ways to spend money that could have been used for the screening? And then the question is, what is the purpose of the screening? You see, if you propose screening for young people who want to get admission into universities, you need to tell us why. The possible gains, the possible outcomes of such screening. Are you screening just so that you know if they are using drugs? Are you screening so that you say, oh, you won't admit them into university because they are using drugs? And there are different levels of drug use. There are some people who do recreational use of drugs. Then there are some people who are drug addicts, what we call junkies.
Yeah.
All of them are drug users, but they are not exactly at the same level, but they are all bad at the same time. Whatever level of drug usage is bad. But the point I'm making is, there was no detail. When you make a suggestion, oh, you want to screen young people who want admission into universities for drug usage, that for me is a very, very nebulous statement. It doesn't tell us precisely why you want to do the test, the benefits to the nation, the possible cost. So it's like flying a kite. Maybe they want to know how the government and the people will respond to that. But I think personally, that there will be better ways to channel similar funds to fighting the drug war.
Okay.
Just testing people in itself may not be of much use. So after testing them, what's next?
Okay. According to the United Nations office, we hear that on drug and crime, it indicates that Nigeria indicates 14.4%, that is 14.3 million people aged 15 and 64 years of age, they do abuse drug. This number is quite humongous. Don't you think this could help, curb the numbers? Actually, this drug abuse is being used by people of younger age range.
The challenge is when you finish testing them and you find out that some of them are using drugs or even addicts. What do you do?
Do you decline them the admission if you find out something of that nature?
No, sorry. For me, it's not a question for me to answer. You need to ask the person who made the suggestion.
Yeah, but what do you think? What's your take?
If you ask me, I would suggest that if a person is drug dependent, not experimenting with drugs, then the person should go to rehab, not to admission.
Okay.
But the point is, do you have rehab centers? That I told you earlier, there are different levels of drug usage. Even the former president of America, Barack Obama, confessed that at some time he experimented with drugs. It's a phase a lot of young people actually pass through. A lot do not, but majority do not. But quite a lot do. That is, they may smoke cigarettes for some time and quit. They may experiment with marijuana or whatever for some time and quit. So if you find someone who is experimenting or going through a process that is not as damaging as addiction, you can easily wean the person, remove the person off the drug habit. If the person is addicted to the drug, then what I would recommend is that you send the person to rehab. That is, you defer the admission, send the person to rehab, and then when the person dries out, you send the person back to school. Because not deferring the admission and maybe punishing the person for being a drug addict can actually lead to depression and a state of mind that will take the person right back to the drug. So you must engage the person meaningfully after the rehab. But the big question is that NDLEA is not thinking about rehab centers. A lot of people already know that their children are using drugs, that their friends are using drugs, that their relations are using drugs. I have cases of drug addiction now that are looking for where to refer the families. The NDLEA facility is too small. So I think they should be suggesting how to increase the rehab facilities in Nigeria, how to increase social change communication programs, how to create ambassadors that will fight drug use. Because as it is now, there are some unscrupulous and lousy musicians and public figures who promote drug use habits. But we don't have people who consciously fight it. You understand? So I think, with all due respect, they should be thinking, how do we spend money to give the drug habit a knockout, or at least begin to win the rounds of the match?
Okay.
I respect Marwa a lot.
Okay.
I mean, he has brought some energy to the drug war. But I think we need to be more intentional, especially about two areas.
Okay.
Getting young people to understand that drug use is not fashionable in any way. It can only take the person to the gallows. And the second thing we must do is to provide rehab centers that can be afforded. If you're going to do drug tests, it's free. That money can be channeled to having drug rehab centers that can also be free.
Okay.
And when young people know that if they become addicts, that they will be confined to a rehabilitation center by law, not by suggestion. Because by law, you can actually confine a person for health reasons.
Yeah.
So if a person is a vagrant, an alcoholic, or a drug addict, by law, you confine the person to the rehab center, and get the person back on track. Those are the kind of things I'm expecting to hear. Because if you go and test young students that are going to get admission, if you look at the percentage you just gave us, you may test 100,000 students to discover 10,000 drug users. And out of the 10,000, so you can imagine the cost of testing 100,000 students
Exactly.
to discover 10,000 users. Then out of the 10,000 users, maybe 3,000 are core addicts. The cost of testing the other people alone is a huge waste.
Okay, now let's look at it. Boss, you're talking stacks. I love the stacks right now. I'm seeing. We had cannabis is the most abused illicit drug right now, according to report from the United Nations, and a total of $15 million to $30 million annually are spent annually on psychotropic drugs and alcoholic beverages, according to the United Nations. And when we see entertainers, for lack of what, musicians, do in their music video, try to sell these drugs like as part of a frenzy. How can we curb this menace? From you, talk to me.
You see, there are several instruments that induces percent. You tax those other substances 1,000. In fact, for me, they should be banned. I think this is a good opportunity to thank NAFDAC for banning production of alcoholic beverage in sachet.
Okay.
I've seen that argument raging back and forth. The manufacturers are saying no, that you are throwing away jobs and that you are killing industries. But then you have to ask the question, so what if the industries survive and people are dying? Which is better? To kill industries that kill us, or to allow them to thrive and continue to kill us? It's a very dangerous question. But we need to also remind some of those alcoholic beverage manufacturers that they can use that equipment to produce other things that may not necessarily be death sachets. So I felt I should just point out that there are several policies we can use. We can use taxation. We can also use other means to discourage us. Now, I don't really think that in this era of social media that we are promoting it inadvertently. But I think we should find other ways of this, that no government institution or official can patronize any artist or celebrity that in any way promotes the use of any drug. It becomes a law. So you cannot be invited for shows, whether the show is for adults or children. We can also make it clear that any corporate body, we can even include corporate bodies in that law, but we can also say that even if we don't say you can't invite them for shows, if you invite them, you pay taxes heavily. For instance, if you pay the artist 5 million, you pay government 5 million. That it is hip, that it is cool to smoke Indian hemp, to drink alcohol and all kinds of dangerous beverages. I went for an event, a small party on Sunday evening, and I saw an alcoholic beverage that was imported from India. Listen to this carefully. This is very important. Imported from India, a brand of whiskey that has 40 whiskey that contains 48%. That is half of that bottle is pure alcohol. But the interesting aspect of this story is not that it contains 48% alcohol. The interesting aspect of the story is that they wrote clearly, manufactured for export only. So the Indian company, I think the name of that drink is whether it's 8 p.m. or something like that, because I took note of it. I even snapped the label. The Indian government and company have the sense to manufacture the poison for export. And Nigerians have the dumbness to import. They wrote it clearly. It's not for sale in India, manufactured for export only, with a NAFDAC number, which tells that NAFDAC approved it. So what is wrong with NAFDAC declining to approve drinks that have that high level of alcohol, or declining to approve more of them? You can say, okay, those who have approved, retain your license. They can also peg the approval of such beverages at 100 million or more. So if you want to bring us poison, we first of all poison that to your journey by making it very difficult for you. That is how we should raise money, not tax people who are struggling to survive on the streets.
Okay.
If you say you must bring us expensive cognac and things that will, then fine, pay us. Then go and take the money from the people who want to, from the billionaires who want to drink expensive cognac. We need to learn how to use taxation to discourage some of those bad habits. But the point I'm making is that the government can creatively sit down and work with NDLEA, NAFDAC, National Orientation Agency, while those ones are just in a state of suspended animation. But I just had to mention them. But work with faith-based organizations like CAN, work with the Muslim community, work with all of them at the same time to launch an onslaught on the use of drugs. Our young people are just wasting, converting all kinds of things to drugs, including discovering their own drugs by mixing substances. I don't want to say things I shouldn't say on radio. Okay. Now, what I mean, I can say them, but if I say that, some of them will go and try it.
Try it, yeah.
But yes, so I don't want to tell you what they're doing. That they're mixing different substances to create their own drugs. Now, there are harmless substances that you mix, you get drugs. Very powerful drugs. So they are getting to that level. And the battle is a battle of the mind. I can tell you clearly, it's a battle of the mind, and the devil is winning. Okay, if we are going to win this battle, we have to go for the minds of the young people, and we can do it. There are good artists who are doing very well, both in Nollywood, music, comedy. They can be commissioned officially to not only to become ambassador, but to infuse messages that will discourage young people from drugs. The same way the other people also infuse messages that encourage them. We can do this thing. But we are not creative about it.
Talking about young people, we hear that alcoholic abuse accounts for a total of 3.3 million deaths annually, and 31 million people are documented to suffer from drug abuse. 31 million. The number is astronomical. More than 2.6 million people in 10 to 24 years age bracket die yearly from drug and substance abuse. This according to the World Health Organization. There is really a drug pandemic in the nation. Anyway, be part of the conversation. Come on, be part of the conversation. The numbers to be part of the conversation is simple. Send us a WhatsApp message or WhatsApp voice note, call us or WhatsApp call or the SMS on these two numbers, either of the numbers, 0808 312 8618, 0808 312 8618 or 0700 010 961 961. That is 0700 010 961 961. Okay, Mr. Larry, let's take this discussion up notch. Do you think that this policy can also be shifted into our political sector?
I think that if we want to actually screen people, the people we should be screening are those who want to contest for elections and who are supposed to be appointed for government positions. One is that the numbers are not too many. Two is that the person will pay for the screening.
Absolutely.
If you can pay 10 million for
the position,
expression of interest and for forms, or 1 million, he can pay for screening. But he won't bring. We are not going to say, bring us the result of your screening. We are going to say, come for screening here, but you pay.
Okay.
So the government can appoint designated reputable institutions, the same way that U.S. Embassy would require you to go to certain places for your genotype and medical screening. We can designate reputable institutions that will not allow anybody to manipulate their outcomes. So you see that some people who have drug use habits will either not contest for elections altogether, or they will actually quit the drug for maybe a year or more before the election, which means in itself we have achieved results. That is what we should be talking about. You cannot go to the National Assembly and be using drugs, or go to the State House Assembly and be using drugs. Those are the people we should first target, because if we target them and we're able to clean them up, then they are more likely to begin to make laws and facilitate the process of targeting other demographic segments. But if we say we want to target students because they manufacture mess in Nigeria, a lot of the synthetic drugs, the fact is that made them are owned by adults, usually over 45, 50, not children. So we need to capture them, to stop importing the drugs, to stop trafficking drugs, to stop manufacturing drugs, It's a matter of the mind. A lot of young people want to make money quickly. A lot of adults want to make money quickly. They think that drug is the fastest way to make money. Some of them just do the business for money. We shouldn't also be targeting users. We should realize that Nigeria became a drug use nation when we became a drug trafficking nation. So people started testing the drugs. Before Nigeria knew what was heroin and cocaine, there was already a problem in US and in some other Western countries. But we didn't even know that those things existed, maybe apart from the few persons who read novels. But when we started selling drugs, people started using drugs here. So we need to also look at not just testing people for usage. If we want to fight the drug war successfully, we must ask ourselves a simple question. How do we also tackle the illicit drug trade? Not just tackle it in terms of catching smugglers and catching manufacturers, but having a massive intelligence network. In America, they have the DEA. So they have even more. They have people who go underground and relate with both users and sellers. If you have that level of activity in Nigeria, we'll wipe out the drug business.
So what you're saying, what you're saying in essence, that we should make drug testing mandatory for public office holders in Nigeria.
Yes, an emphatic yes. Again, and a very emphatic yes, because some of our public office holders use drugs, and it affects their head. So they don't make rational decisions. And in any case, that campaign will also help us to begin to sanitize the leadership and political space. And also just create that awareness that we are fighting this battle. It is not a silver bullet, meanwhile, I must say that. When I say an emphatic yes, it doesn't mean that once we do that, all our problems will go away. Because the truth is that most of them do not use drugs. But we don't want the few that use to get into that place. Because, come to think of it, if few of them use drugs, what will happen is that even young people will say, I smoke with so and so person, and he is so and so. So what the heck? I mean, when we were in school, there was a lecturer. If I mention his name now, most of the listeners know his name, that used to smoke Indian hemp. But he was a doctor and a brilliant chap. And students used to talk about how they met him in bunk. So he made smoking Indian hemp very fashionable, unfortunately so, because he was a brilliant academic. And then he was not only smoking, but he wasn't smoking in private. He would go to the places they smoke and sit with students and smoke. And that was terrible. So imagine if that kind of person was taken out of the space. It would have sanitized the space somehow. It would have shown students that, this is not a good habit. And if, for instance, there was a test done and he was given an ultimatum of 1 year to go for drug rehab or lose his job as a lecturer, he would have dried out. Or he would have probably taken flight to another country to smoke and lecture, in which case it will be good riddance of bad rubbish. So yes, we can begin to look at how to start that kind of testing, starting from political appointees, people who want to contest elections, and expanding the net. Maybe as we proceed, we will now have a holistic way of even capturing young people as they make progress in life. But testing them en masse, just say we are testing 100,000 persons to discover 5,000.
We talk about, a lot of time we spoke about
that can take care of 5,000 persons in Nigeria now. That is, if you capture 5,000 addicts now,
okay,
you don't have spaces to treat 5,000. So if you capture them, what next? If you find them, what's next? So we need to design if you want to design a program, we need to design a program that will solve the problem. We must emphasize having use message. We must also design rehab centers that will be spread across the nation. And we need to begin to train medical staff that will help in this process. If you go and build the houses and you don't have the medical staff that can help in the rehabilitation process, then it means you just wasted money and you won't import the people from the moon. So we need to have what I may call a coordinated and integrated program that will help Nigeria begin to fight the drug war. NDLEA is trying. There's actually a lot more activity. We have a lot more arrests and prosecution, especially But we need to get more creative and do an integrated, seriously integrated drug war approach that will also target the minds of the people, both the minds of those who get into the drug trade and the minds of those who use drugs. And sorry, I want to point this out. When we talk about drugs, usually we talk about statistics.
Yeah.
Now, statistics are cold and detached.
Okay.
I think we need to go to that place where drug users who have been devastated by drugs but eventually may be recovered should become ambassadors. We remember our own Mateko Dumi Fasheki and what happened to him. I mean, imagine if that guy became an ambassador to say, don't use drugs. This is what he did to me. I know a young girl, one of the most beautiful girls I have seen, who actually parades the street where my office is. She was sent by her parents to study at the prestigious University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. She ended up a junkie. As we speak, she's still a junkie. The parents don't have the money to send her to rehab. Her story is a personal story. When you see this girl, that singular girl, you see what drug can do to a human being. And I know a young man, this is a story that will actually practically break your heart. He has been arrested twice and almost killed the second time, trying to steal from cars parked by people to feed his drug habit. He confessed. He was arrested recently at a teaching hospital where he was trying to take out the battery of a car to sell. He was a mechanic before. The drug habit made it impossible for him to continue the work because he would vandalize people's cars to feed the habit. So people stopped coming to his shop, and then he became a bus driver. He couldn't maintain his bus. But as this is a real story, 2 weeks ago, he was in court. They nearly mobbed him. They actually nearly killed him. It was a good Nigerian that called the police that rescued him from the mob. Now, this is a human being. This is a case I'm involved in. I'm trying to help the family find a rehab center so that he will be dried out. So the question is, it's good to talk about statistics, but we need to find individuals who have gone through the drug habit or who are struggling with it to tell their stories. So young people will see that this warning is real, that it's not a joke. Because the statistics is there, but it's cold. It's just there.
Okay.
When we bring out specific people, stars who died of drug overdose, both in US and elsewhere, young people will become more careful about the romance with drugs.
Okay, now let's look at it from this point of view. I notice how much the NDLEA can do to curb this drug pandemic, in my own word, where that has eaten deep not only into our society, but also into a lot of sectors, educational sector, the political sector, and we need to find a way to curb it. Okay, we have this mantra where we say catch them young. Do you think that we can bring drug abuse or orientation into our curriculum so that students can begin to understand the effect, especially young children, of these drugs, not only on them, but on their families and the society at large?
Well, it sounds like a good idea, but the truth, I'll tell you something. There's something we call formal education and informal education.
Okay. One
of the things I've noticed is that anything that becomes a problem, Nigerians will want to put it in the curriculum. At that rate, we'll be going to school from morning to night every day. We can't put every day. There are some things that require generation and generation before ours, people were not taking drugs. They were not taught in schools. It was a taboo to smoke cigarettes when we were young.
Okay.
Taboo. Adults who were smoking cigarettes were seen as irresponsible. It wasn't fashionable to smoke cigarettes. But thank God to Oliko Ransom Kuti that helped us to ban smoking in public spaces and label. Of course, you know that smoking has reduced dramatically in Nigeria. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Absolutely.
Before now, kids, at some point, it was actually becoming fashionable to smoke. They were targeting young women, making slim and elegant sticks, showing stars smoking. But somebody had to stop that madness. And I still thank Kuti again, Ransom Kuti again, for stopping that madness. And he was a smoker himself. And one of the things that the ministerial appointment did for him, in his own words, was that he helped him to quit smoking because he was fighting smoking for the good of the people. So he also quit. But having said that, even if you put it in curriculum, what will happen? Teachers will come and parrot about smoking. Some of them will be smokers, and they will tell the kids don't smoke. So, No, no kidding. So I think what we need to do is to go back to the institutions that shape our lives: family, church, mosque.
Okay.
Faith-based organizations are very powerful. Family is very powerful. And this is also an opportunity for me to plead with men and women who smoke and take alcoholic beverages and do drugs. Save your children. Even if you hide it from them, they will know, they will find out. But a lot of parents who drink very dangerous alcoholic beverages and smoke at home, you are just preparing your child for perdition, for ruin. So there are things we must do differently. If you insist on drinking alcoholic beverages, you shouldn't do that in the presence of your children. You are ruining them. If you made that choice as an adult, you should also allow them to make that choice as adults. You shouldn't influence them because you're their hero, you're their father figure. You are their mom. They love you. They want to be like you. So if you smoke, they smoke. If you do drugs, they do drugs. So we should lead by example. For me, we should actually begin to teach parents how to parent. Then we need to teach faith-based institutions how to use their platforms for good of society. If we are able to do this, then there are some things we should separate from the academic institutions. We can't teach everything. You know, when you talk about human rights, they say put it in the curriculum. This, put it in the curriculum. When we were in school, we used to go back home by 1:30 p.m. and then eat lunch, take siesta, do prayer. Life was good. Today, kids go back from school 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And guess what? They don't know anything. But when people used to go back from school 1:30 p.m. without lesson, no lesson, nothing like lesson, the teachers were enough because they were dedicated. They were committed, so we need to revive that capacity to raise children properly. Parents have a fundamental role to play. Faith-based organizations have a fundamental role to play. And then the school is not just about teaching in the classroom. Teachers were great role models.
Okay.
I don't remember any teacher who smoked in my primary school. I'm not kidding. I don't remember any teacher in my school that smoked in my secondary school. So they were not only teaching us subjects, they were teaching us morals and good lifestyle.
Okay.
By example.
Okay,
so
now
that is more important than smoking outside the class and telling us not to smoke inside the class. In fact, some people even go and check that thing you're enjoying. Let me enjoy it.
Okay, let me know. Let it not be as if I'm overstretching the rod, but I just got a premonition, and I think I should just let it out. Do you think that it should be a criteria for application of not only public, apart from public offices, but for jobs, government jobs, private sectors? Can they take it as a criteria before you being given a job? Like the way you go, you do interviews, you do you bring in your CV. Could it be part and parcel of way we can curb, this menace by getting people to be tested before they get or during the application of a job?
Well, the challenge is that it looks good, yes, if it can be implemented properly. Even when we talked about the political class, I said an emphatic yes. But we're in Nigeria. I'll be honest with you. If you insist on testing political candidates, they will insist on corrupting the system. They will insist on putting a few institutions where they can obtain a clean bill of health, even when they are junkies. So the truth is that it will help, but can we manage it? That's the big problem. If will all of their staff be able to withstand certain levels of temptation, financial inducement to bend the rules? I think one of the things we need to do is to actually ensure that we attack, we attack this menace on a massive level from different fronts at the same time. And it doesn't have to involve much money, but it can involve a lot of ideas. Believe me, if you can get all of the institutions that influence us greatly to join the war, that is the major media houses, faith-based organizations, the entertainment industry, that is, it's like a massive assault. If you follow the history of the World War II, you'll find out that for the Allied forces to liberate France, there was the biggest invasion up to that time that happened. That is the biggest fleet of ships were assembled to land on France through the Normandy beach. Now, what I'm saying is that sometimes you need sheer force to overwhelm the enemy. We need to get to that point where we use sheer creativity and attack this thing from all fronts in a sustainable manner, not for 1 month, not for 2 months. And that attack will come from all fronts. For instance, if you know anybody who sells drugs, we clean out the whole. I mean, do you know that policemen, with all due respect to the police, are listening to me? And if they doubt it, I can prove it. Policemen know where the bunks are. NDLEA staff know where the bunks are. If they don't know, they should come. Let me show them. In any city they want, I can show them within 48 hours where they sell drugs. So how come they don't take them out? I think the drugs at least should be driven underground. Let it be that if you want to use drugs, you go and look for it. Today, people know where drugs are sold, where people go and gather and smoke and do all sorts of things, and they leave them there. You know, and it's a menace. At a place called Emene in Enugu, where you have the airport, there are infamous places where people use drugs. Most concerned residents of that Emene have been calling on radio, shouting on social media, go and shut down these places, and they will be practically hard of hearing. So while we play to the gallery and show on television that we have arrested this person with 1 ton of cocaine and 1 dish of that, I think we should also come down to the streets. We should launch a massive war. If you know where they are selling the drugs, let us know. If you know anybody who has planted marijuana and all of that, let us know. Let everybody become the enemy of those who kill our future by selling drugs. And they will mobilize everybody to be the enemy. If you know a driver that moves drugs, let us know. Before you know what is happening, the information will start coming. And then if you know any corrupt NDLEA officer, police officer that is and abets, let us know.
Okay.
When we get to that level, you find out that it's not rocket science to minimize the effect of these things.
Okay.
But then we need a lot of ideas and a lot of people with integrity, because drug money is plenty. You may shout, let us know, let us know. When they let you know, if you want to talk, they put something in your mouth to shut up.
Anyway, 60 seconds, your final 2 cents, your final submission on all we've discussed so far before we leave the studio.
I think the most important thing we should know is that if we don't stop the way the use of drugs becoming fashionable and spreading in Nigeria, we may get to that point where we have a generation of Nigerians that may not be able to think lucidly, that may not be able to even manage the nation. This is for me, it's an emergency situation, really, and the country should rise up to the occasion by not only supporting NDLEA, but by also mobilizing ourselves, different platforms, to see the reason we should actually join in this war against the use of drugs. It's beyond just testing people and finding out whether they use drugs or not. It's also about getting their minds to understand that anything that gabbles your capacity to reason, anything that will make you see an elephant and think it's a rat, is very dangerous. Because the elephant can actually crush you. Absolutely. Before you realize that it's an elephant. So I think we need to get to that point where, as a nation, we rise up against the menace of the use of drugs.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Larry Ogwego, and thank you very much for your 2 cents this morning.
Yeah, it's my pleasure and privilege, and I hope that NDLEA, the federal government, FCT, and every other person, they will do something with all of the ideas we have shared on this program today. Do have a wonderful day.
And you too. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, without much said, let us head out, of course, to what's going down in the footballing sector. Let's head out to a little bit of sports. Okay, guys, let's quickly go to sports and let's bring you up to speed with all the latest happenings. Quickly, we start off, of course, from the camp of the Flamingos, talking about the under-17 national team. We hear that the coach of the under-17 team, Coach Bankole Olowokere, has released a 35-man list of players that will take part in a preparation for the under-17 World Cup that will take place later this year. For the under-20 team, talking about the Falcons, they've arrived Colombia on pageantry as they prepare for the tournament that will begin as early as September. And I'm talking about the Flamingos. Also, we hear that, of course, the Nigeria Youth Games has gotten a new date to now be from the 9th to the 19th instead of from the 10th to the 20th, and it is held in Asaba. Still talking from the Paris Olympic Games, the Nigerian Wrestling Federation has come out to apologize to Nigeria, saying that they are sorry, knowing that Nigeria's hope was so high that they would have won a medal or two, and it just concluded Paris Olympic Games. We're hearing from the NFF that the Flying Eagles coach will be announced latest today. We'll get to know who the manager is for the 20 national team as they begin to prepare for the games. It's talking about the WAFU qualifiers of the Under-20 Championship. That as well, we can let you know. Denebi, the former coach of the Falcons, talking about Thomas Denebi, the Falcons, Super Falcons, has come out to pour his own support to the certain man, Jens Anderson, to become the new coach of the Super Eagles. Anderson, of course, we all know who he is. Jan Anderson is a Swedish manager, and we hear he's is the guy who's been touted to be the new coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. One man as well has come out of retirement. His name is Bora Mitlinov, former coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria as far back as 1996. He says he wants to return back to coaching, lead a team to the 2026 World Cup. Wait and see which team that would be. For one man, Chilani, he continues rehabilitation in Netherlands. We hear that his former club, Roger JC, has poured support on him. He was even given a proper round of applause and a standing ovation before their game this week. Boss Gasparini has come out clear to say he does not know if a certain Ademola Lookman will be in the club at the end of the transfer window that ends in the next 10 days. He says he doesn't know. He's going to wait and see, but that's what he has to hope and pray. For Lobby Stars, they have unveiled their players, including 5 youth players from the tour of Makurdi. They've unveiled 15 new players in the squad, including a certain O.C. Martins from Remo Stars. Other players include Samuel Nyefong from Doma United, Jimmy Iteji from Plateau United, Segu Oluwatobi from Ijebu Ode. You have Ifeanyi Assurance from Benue, Pride of Benue, Bayelsa United, and of course Velatam Igige from Gombe United as well. Williams from Bendel Insurance and Babatunde from Aqua United as well. We had our other top young players, including the likes of Peter Yonan from the Makurdi local government area, Tena Peter from Boko local government area of the state as well, including other players. We hear that from that team that have been unveiled will be going on a close campaign far away in Jos, where they will have a week of break. We hear as we prepare for the new MPFLC, the place of warm-up game, talking about Dobby Stars of Makurdi. EIMA has unveiled a new family stand at the stadium. That can tell you, family stand, they say, is for family experience at the EIMA International Stadium. This is according to Kano Wako, who says he wants to build family bond and ensure that families come out to watch the games of the Elephants of Abia State. For Salisu Yusuf, he will soon be unveiled as the new technical advisor of Barao FC. We hear that Barao FC is part of the team. Soon be announced in the 30-man list for the pre-season tournament in Gusau Alam pre-season tournament that taking place in Jos Plateau State. Salisu Yusuf could be is unveiled at the technical advisor of Barao FC. In the CAF Champions League, Rebel Stars coach Daniel Ogumade is talking tough. He says his team are ready for the antics in Morocco as they take a 2-1 lead from the first leg of their CAF Champions League game against Asfar. And for Ele Chukwu, the coach of Rangers International, is saying that the team has got what it takes to qualify after they won a 1-0 victory at the Gospel of Mabbi next of champion in Uyo. That we can confirm to you. Also, quickly before we leave the locals here, a certain basketball administrator talking about Tefa Boyibo has come out clear to say that the Minister of Sports and the Nigerian Basketball Federation, as well as the Nigerian Olympic Committee, should begin preparation for the Olympics in 2028. He made his speaking during a 50-50 short fundraising event to celebrate his 50th birthday held at the Indoor Sports Hall, Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja. Said that the game of basketball in Nigeria can only grow if there are more partnership. Don't forget that event was an event where it was a raise funding event to ensure that 50 students get funds for their senior secondary school. Talking about the money that will be made from the fundraising we used to pay for 50 students WAEC and NECO fees. And up to the foreign scene, guys. Let's run quickly because of time. We can let you know quickly that of course Thierry Henry has stepped down as the coach of the Under-21 national team. He stepped down 12 months before his expiration of his contract. He says this is the right time for him to move. For Luka Modric, he's not retiring anytime soon. He will stay put at Croatia because he has been listed in their squad for the UEFA Nations League campaign. He is 39 years of age and is going No way. It turns 39 in September. For a good one, we hear that there are offers from Saudi Arabia, Spain, and England. He wants to leave Barcelona just after 12 months since he joined them. We hear that Man City are in talks to get him back. Wait and see if that would happen. For Chelsea, we hear also they've agreed a deal in principle for Joao Felix. He would sign a 6-year deal with an option for a further year, and the certain Conor Gallagher of Chelsea will be going the other way. For Tottenham Hotspur, they have signed Oliver Skip from Leicester City. Leicester signed Oliver Skip, from Tottenham Hotspur for a fee just above £20 million. It's a 5-year deal, and he will join up with the team. He wasn't part of the team that played yesterday in the Premier League. For Ipswich Town, they have also signed Swedish Kajuste from Napoli. We hear the fee is on loan from Napoli until the end of the season. And Sandames is also in the books of Fulham. We hear Fulham made a bid of £20 million add-ons with plus £5 million add-ons for Sandaberja. He plays for Burnley in the Championship. Don't forget, games were played yesterday in the Premier League, guys. And of course, for Tottenham Hotspur, it wasn't to be for them, as their first game of the new season ended, yes, with a 1-1 draw at the King Power Cinema. Our own Wilfred Ndidi was in action, had a fantastic game, and Jimmy became scored in his 8th match they won encounter, just one behind the certain Mohamed Salah, who has got 9 as well in that encounter. Okay, guys, these are the results of other games played across the match venue in La Liga. Real Valladolid beat Espanyol by a goal to nil. Villarreal played a 2-2 draw with Atletico Madrid. In the Serie A, Lecce lost for 0-4 to Atalanta with Ademola Lookman having a fantastic game, and Juventus beat Como by 3 goals. Today, the Como is being coached by certain Sex Fabregas, a former player from Arsenal. In the DRB Cup, Energies Cottbus 1, Werder Bremen 3, Kickers Hofberg 2, Medberg 1, Koblex nil, Wolfsburg 1, and of course Eintracht Bradwick were well beaten by Eintracht Frankfurt by 1 goal to 4. Today, games will continue in the Champions League. I can confirm to you, Dynamo Zagreb will take on Karabakh, Bodo Glimt will take on Red Star Belgrade, and Lille will take on Slava Prague. While in the Conference League, FC Noir will take on Rosenborg. That game is for 5 p.m. Okay, guys, and this is how much we can take today. And of course, our Sport Beat. Come on, it's been a wonderful 1 hour. Come on, talking about everything from the arena, talking about the drug abuse, and of course the plan to test varsity students up onto the Sport Beat. Don't forget, guys, up next is Ogen Debo. That one will be from exactly 9 p.m. to 10. Okay, for me, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget, drug abuse is a no-no, not in Nigeria, not anywhere in the world. It only makes you lose your steam. I am Nonso Arizichi, your sport bishop. Good morning. Enjoy the rest of the programming.